This is iRacing.
From a scrappy regional racetrack to one of the longest circuits on the calendar, the IMSA Vintage drivers take their GTPs and GTOs across the pond to Spa-Francorchamps. Which Nissan will risk everything with low wings to try and gain some lap time? And who in the Audis will be able to break the draft and come home with the win? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 9 of the iRacing IMSA Vintage series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lindgren, and with me in the booth is Craig King. Our director is Christian Deploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. An epic track with a storied history in the IMSA Vintage series. To find out more about this legendary venue, let's take you down to our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. Less than an hour's drive east from the German border, this Belgian track has come to define racing for many different eras in the sport. It's no wonder it continues to entrance drivers when you look at the stats. The 7 kilometers over the course of a lap includes more than 330 feet in elevation change as it weaves its way through the Ardennes forest. Packed into this is 19 turns, some of which are considered among the most famous in the world of racing. Corners like La Source and Blanchemont have been on the lips of drivers for decades. But by far the most notorious is Eau Rouge and Rétillon. Typically referred to in name by just the first section, it dips low and swings left, then compresses and climbs to the right up a massive hill. The sequence ends with a completely blind crest that sweeps to the left and leads onto the incredibly long Kemmel Straight. The bravery required to be fast through there will pay off towards one of the most popular passing spots at Lacombe. Eau Rouge is exemplary of the rest of the circuit though. Most of the turns are incredibly fast and many include much of that signature elevation change. As jaw-dropping as the track is, you have to remember that this is the modern truncated layout. The old one, raced until 1979, was 14 kilometers in length, yet carried an average speed of 150 miles per hour. Present-day safety measures do cut down on the danger, but even in recent history, the circuit has proven deadly. It's clear why this track continues to be revered and respected by racers the world round.
Well, Craig, this place hosts a lot of racing. It hosts a lot of formula racing, a lot of club racing. But what about these sports cars from the 80s and 90s?
Well, Adam, last weekend the World Endurance Championship showed how this track can produce fantastic racing. So now's the time for the IMSA Vintage drivers to show off what they can do. This is the track that tests drivers with high and medium speed corners, elevation changes, and great overtaking spots. The GTPs, they love Spa. Let's use that ground and force effect. They'll look to keep the speeds up through Pouhon, through Blanchemont, but those slower corners, they'll start to struggle. So the bus stop, those sort of corners, they will struggle out here today. with the GTOs, they'll be looking to control the speed through those flowing corners. They'll try to point the nose in and fight that understeer as they keep the speed up. That's no easy feat. Eau Rouge, that's going to be dangerous for these Audis. They'll be climbing a 17% gradient, while at the same time turning right and then left. Multiclass, though, it's going to be one of the most straightforward tracks for multiclass, but that comes with a price, because if you can take it for granted, it will cause headaches. Keywords as per usual here, Adam, for the series: Audis always take one line.
They always take one line, and one driver who knows that very well but has decided to step out of their battle for the GTO championship is Audrys Valenteus. As far as the points are concerned, he's at the front of the GTP championship, having raced the last 2 rounds there, and he's now here once again in the GTP to put challenge to Nick Makanos. Nick is probably very frustrated right now with Valenteus being in the GTP, because he's in a really good position for the first time in a while to be in the battle for a championship lead. He's tied with Jacob Reed, 21 points back of Valenteus' 125. Brendan Lim, with his consistency in the top 10 all season, is only 10 points back of Makanos and Reed. So with Valenteus, if Valenteus had not been there, this would look like a very different championship, not least of which because Valenteus wouldn't be taking the winning points. Christoph Olesniak is another 10 points back of Brendan Lim, with Cockram a good 17 points back of Olesniak. Farron Grau is tied with Cal Young for 7th position, and they're only 5 points ahead of Shady Ahmad, who's got Fabian Jungbluth 4 points behind him. So it's tight all the way back from 5th on back in the championship. But can anyone top Valenteus? That's the question we have to answer. That's no longer a question we have to answer in the GTOs, though, Craig.
No, but it's kind of similar, but for different reasons, because Van Hicks technically has got more points than Valenteus on the basis of, well, just having a no drop weeks counted so far this season. And then look how close it is for second place between Lundberg and Josh Brain. And then even throw in Mickey Friesen and just on the bubble, Andreas Schuster. So it's still all to play for the rest of the podium. But it's pretty much clear now that this is Van Hicks' title to lose. Be interesting to see what he does. But you look down the rest of the championship, oh so close between Cameron and Costa Salo making his return as well. Martin Krajcik and Ian Haycock and Doug Cloud also close. And I like to bring it up, and I always will. 11th, 12th, and 13th are all 1 point behind Doug Cloud. That's Billy Roller, Jamie Hamill-Smith, and Emilio Dicciari. So they are still knocking on that door.
Now, as far as our race details today, it is round 9 of 12 for these drivers. It is their sprint layout, or their sprint format rather, 40 minutes. They have open setups, so they can set up the car however they like or dislike, and they have no spare vehicle. A drive-through at 17 incidents and a disqualification at 25. It's hard to get incident points around here, but it's not impossible. But I would be surprised if we saw anyone get a drive-through today. It's quite an epic racetrack around here. So epic, in fact, that qualifying is a little tight for both classes, especially in the Audis. Many of them might only get 1 lap if they didn't go at the drop of the green flag. Only 8 minutes in qualifying for these drivers, with just under 4 minutes to go. So we're halfway through, and no one has yet to set a qualifying time.
Yeah, Valenteus just coming down into Brussels. I was standing on that bank this time last weekend, or just coming home this time last weekend, sorry. As you start to see Valenteus hitting the straight and down again, with the crowd hitting the Puhan double gauche. It's the same name, it's the same corner. Could be interesting to see what he will do today. Managed to get another victory in the 49s earlier this afternoon. We'll go for the 79s. And interesting, no Jacob Reed today. As we know, there is the iRacing Indy 500. No, he has done 1 of the time slots. I think he may be doing another as he kicks up some of the gravel here. Shouldn't be an off track. Should be okay there, Adam, but he'll start to crank it on the throttle as he comes up to the iconic Blanchimont.
Yeah, that was quite close to an off track around here, but I agree. I don't think he's going to get one. We'll see what happens here. 2 minutes 56 to go, and they're doing 1 minute 58 at the front of the field, so he's got plenty of time to complete that second lap. Our GTOs are just starting to put in laps at 2:18, so those who have yet to cross the line are going to be under a little bit of pressure to get to the line for their second lap. Valenteus crosses the line, and it was, I believe, an off track for Valenteus. Yes, it was. So he is going to have to make this work. Actually, he had yet to start, so this is his first timed lap, so he's only going to get one today, Craig.
No, Adam, we've forgotten the key thing here. This is the classic Grand Prix. One thing we forgot to address. So we're using the classic start line for everything, and it's not endurance pits. So that's a key thing as well for this race. You've seen Noah Lundberg going up the hill, up the Camel Straight. If this was endurance pits, the start would be the classic Grand Prix grid line, as we just saw them cross the line, but it would be the Grand Prix line for a finish line and to start a lap. This is classic, so everything is going to be on that start. So, like we saw with the Lotus 79s earlier this season, this opens up battling, because usually you would see a mad dash to the bus stop to end the race. It's going to be a mad dash into La Source. That's going to create a lot of trouble out there today. So one to keep an eye out for, because that will also be trouble for these GTOs. So Van Hicks really wants to try and get that pole position. He's going to have to try and get it away from Lundberg, because it's going to be very important. I said they're going to try and point the nose here. We've seen how Valenteus in the GTP take Blanchimont. Get ready to see how this GTO take Blanchimont.
I by far prefer the classic start-finish line to the modern start-finish line. I believe that it creates really good racing and allows drivers to not make crazy moves into Blanchimont, into the switchback here, the chicane, but it allows them to set up an exit out of the chicane so that they can make a good turn for the final turn and have a good battle. So I'm looking forward to seeing if we have any last lap battles around here. I expect that the most likely for that scenario for that is in the GTOs. Let's just see Van Hicks come around the corner. Currently in 4th position, needs to cross the line and do better than Kaminen's 2:18.7. Gonna cross the line at a 2:18.636, and that will put, oh man, it was a 2:18.709 according to my timing and scoring that he finished. So that will be 2nd position right now, as Valenteus does take yet again another fastest lap over Nick Makanos by half a second.
Yeah, Makanos has taken his time, and Valenteus has done that. Noah Lundberg looking to try and get a time. 4,000th of a second between Kaminen and Friesen after qualifying. Do not adjust your set. Is Lundberg going to try and beat that again? He is not, because he's going to go fastest. And that's a fantastic time from Noah Lundberg out of the hat at the final seconds.
What a wrap up to qualifying we just had. Noah Lundberg taking provisional pole position of the GTOs. We'll get to that in a moment. But for now, we're going to start with the GTPs with Audrius Valenteus on pole position with Nick Makanos next to him. We've said this many times over the course of the season, but what we're surprised by is no Jacob Reed. So we're going to have Hennig Schwabing joining us once again on row 2 next to Sean Langton, who we have not seen race this series in a little bit. So it's nice to see Sean back and up in P4. Christoph Lesniak starts off into the top 5 with Braden Shafroth, a newer driver, joining us on row 3 in 6th position. Row 4 goes to Shady Ahmad and Brendan Lim, with Gabri Martinez and Gail Gonzalez rounding out the top 10. 11th is going to be Jesus Sanchez Morales, with Matthew Cockrum next to him in 12th. Row 7 goes to Max Wheeler, Guillermo Garcia in 14th position, with Andre Felipe Diaz in 15th on row 8 next to Jose Lamas. And we've got Daniel Saleo in 17th, with Victor Apollo in 18th, the last driver to set a qualifying time. Daniel Gallis is the first driver to not set a qualifying time, with Lance Simon next to them, and that's going to be Bill Kraus and Bill Nazamis, the two Bills, on row 11 to round out the 22-car GTP grid.
Well, we get to the GTOs and Noah Lundberg. We just saw what he did. Pole position away from Johanny Kaminen, who was 4 thousandths quicker than Mickey Friesen. And there's Johan Van Hicks in P4, with Andreas Schuster taking up 5th. He'll be alongside Jack Wells in 6th, with Ika Costa Salo in 7th. Henry Morse comes over to the series in 8th, and Ian Haycox in 9th. Doug Cloud will take 10th. Page 2, it will be Austin Farr in 11th, with Alfonso Fernandez in 12th. Josh Brain will be 13th, with Philip Blake in 14th. Then Emilio Dicciari, the GTU leader, in 15th. Forban Pollock will be 16th. Franco Scurry will take 17th, with Martin Krajcik in 18th. Then it's Roman Bello in 19th. Jamie Hamill-Smith in 20th. Just one more page. I know everyone's roaring to get going. The last 8 drivers are Paul Clavier in 21st. Luca Mosconi will be the last of the time qualifiers in 22nd. Then Ove Trangarade, who's not set any laps this week, in 23rd. Carlos Fonseca will be 24th. Lawrence Coleman, 25th. Duncan Morales, 26th. Christopher Lewis will be 27th. And Florian Zatelli will be 28th for your 28 GTOs to go alongside your 22 GTPs.
Absolutely, that takes us up to a total of around number of 50 for this race, and it is more GTOs than GTPs, but not enough to make a significant difference, I don't think, to how race strategy plays out. When you have significantly more GTOs than GTPs, the GTPs tend to be the class that has to do a lot more waiting, and the battles get broken up a lot. But when you have about even or bias towards the GTPs, that's when the Audi packs are the ones that tend to get broken up, with the GTP packs staying together, Craig. So it's going to be interesting to see how strategy plays out today. And it's going to be interesting to see whether or not anyone can keep up with Valenteus at the front of the field. Spoiler, I don't think it's going to happen today.
Never say never, Adam. Never say never. Key thing here, though, is 2. 2 times is the number of times the GTPs will go past the GTOs. So you're not going to see a lot of issues between the cars mangling together. However, and I get to delay a little bit here because remember the start line is a classic pit, that can also cause a headache the first time round. And because of the fact that you only get to see them twice, the second time round you will also see the grouping together. So the traffic will be a little bit more chaotic today, just due to the fact that they don't see those GTOs a lot today.
Absolutely, and it will actually create bigger gaps because it only happens once, so that you can't rely on that to bring you back together to a car that you lost out on if you were to go by gain some gap on them or lose time to them in the GTO traffic for the GTPs. GTO battle is going to be very tight. We have a lot of good, strong contenders at the front of this field, and at the GTP field, Andres Valenteus taking them around the corner. The pace car is going to pull off. There is the gap in the wall for the pit stops if they need them, but they shouldn't. Andres Valenteus can take control of the field at any point, and he jumps, leaving Nick Mecanos behind again. Nick Mecanos caught out a couple of times over the course of this season due to the start of the race, but he's going to have a nice draft as they go through the amazing left and right up the hill again, and now it's going to be Nick Mecanos with a strong draft on Andres Valenteus. Is he going to go for a move this time by halfway up? And it looks like a big wreck in the background. The GTO's sneaking by.
GTO sneaking by. One car is in the wall, and it looks like that is actually Braden Sharford, who was in 6th. It's a real big mistake there for him, as you get to see the GTOs all coming on one at a time, and also trying to force it side by side as they go through. A lot of drivers trying to take that right away, but Jack Wells getting a good start. Duncan Morales, the big gainer so far, +3. We're on board with those GTPs. Not a lot is happening. Gail Gonzalez has towed, though, for the GTPs.
Absolutely. Andres Valenteus getting passed by Nick Mecanos at the end of the straight, so good thing for Mecanos. He's able to lead this lap. Up until a little bit later. We're taking a look at Henry Morse right now in the middle of the GTO field, and who's that off track? That's Josh Brain, who's taken to the inside of the track. He possibly has a mechanical, but now just trying to get back up to speed. He looks like he's off the pace once again, so I think Josh Brain might have a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, it looked like he had a connection issue and just decided to get out the way as fast as he could. A little bit of touching in the back with Franco Scurry and Ove Trengere, but we're looking at Doug Cloud right now. Doug Cloud trying to do some real good driving at the moment. They're all bunched up here. It's crazy. I see Lesniak has had a moment, and we're just watching a slide from Justin Farr, and he holds it. Fantastic from him. Fantastic from everybody. But Lesniak, as I was just saying in the GTPs, he's gone for a tow on lap 1.
Absolutely. It was through this corner where all the GTPs went extremely wide, the cold tires catching them out. It was the entire front pack, and it was Lesniak who got the worst of it. He went through the gravel and ended up spinning out and hitting the inside wall, blowing off the rear cover of that vehicle. And look at this, a pass for the lead of the GTOs. Noel Lundberg and Yanni Komanen. Komanen trying to hold it on the inside in that Glacier Racing machine, but Lundberg with a better line. That is not the start-finish line. That is just another part of the track as they're going to head into what is the final corner in the classic layout. Komanen backing off, trying to set up a good exit from here and make a pass up the hill.
Got a destroyed car just coming here. That's Apollo going by as they all go through. And remember, La Source has a lot of camber on that inside. So if you are trying to take it side by side, it's oh so tough to make that move. So you can see the smart play was to just go around and just wait for the moment. And you can see Mickey Friesen. I feel this is the type of race that will favor Friesen today. This is a win it if you're in it type of layout. And he is that man that usually gets a bit unlucky. But as you see right now, he's got the outside for Lacombe. He won't have that for so long. but but you see Calvin's had to give some respect. And look how it's just bunched everybody up. We talk about the Audi train for oh so many times. This is what you're going to see a lot of today. Some drivers just trying to look for a move, realize they can't, and the other drivers just still keeping the door open.
Absolutely, and I half expected Valenteus to be in the GTO today, as he tends to switch off GTP to GTO, but he's been in the GTP for 2 rounds now, 3 rounds straight, and so it's no surprise that he's still in the GTP, but what that means is that there's no driver with massive speed pace difference compared to the rest of the field in the GTOs. So I expect, like you said, Craig, this train of cars about this long, all the way back to Ian Haycock's in 10th position, I expect that to continue all day long, at least until the GTPs come through. At the front of the GTP field, however, Nick Bucanos still leads the race over Andres Valenteus, and they're starting to gap Henning Treibig by about 8/10. Not out of the draft yet, but if they can get another lap like that, if they can work together this time by, I think they'll have an opportunity to break the draft to Henning and then be in a good position to have a battle 1-2 as we ride on board with Mickey Friesen in 3rd.
Yeah, this is what you expect Mickey Friesen to start doing himself, is with the rest of this field. They want to just bunch up together to try and pull everyone off, and the top 10 are all in a line all together, so you do expect that. They're going to the bus stop. These guys are going to they've gone up the hill, and straight away Valenteus, I thought he almost overshot that for a moment. Get that position done right away. Torben Pollock, though, in the GTOs has had a moment. We'll look at that in a bit, but Valenteus gets it done, and the key thing is Bucanos realized it, didn't fight it too much, because the more they fight, the more they bring the rest of the field together. Real smart decision there. This is the start of the race. This is Braden Schaufel. Oh, cold tires, lost it. He didn't even touch a curb. He just lost it on his own. Oh, so unfortunate there.
Absolutely. I just took a look at what happened with Torben Pollock, and he misshifted, and Austin Farr ended up running into the back of him. This was down towards the back half of the course, just entering Sector 3. And so Torben Pollock, major contact with the inside wall. He's going to be out of it as we take a look once again. Andreas Schuster making a move in the background as we take a look at Mickey Friesen, still stuck in that 3rd position. I think he's going to be content to ride there until the latter parts of this race. Look at this, though. These drivers aren't content to ride. Ove Tringeray, Martin Krajcik, Franco Scurry, all tucked under a blanket. Franco in that battle as Josh Brain, the recovering Josh Brain, trying to find his way through. Single file they go as they take the right-hander down the hill.
Very tough to take it side by side around there at Lake Com. Just ask Sean Gallel what happened when he went side by side last weekend. But Ove Tringeray gets on by, and now he's starting to push. I saw Mick Clarish. We know Mick Clarish. We know how great of a stalwart he is in the community. He told us this is probably the first lap Ove has driven in Spa on this track all week. And yeah, that's grass there, Ove. You don't want to be doing that. So maybe what's been happening there. But these battles at hell, they've been doing more than just this lap here, as Sean Langton, Henning Swebeg, Shady Ahmad trying to work together here. And they realize they're going to have to work together, because look at that time that Valenteus just put down. A 2-minute flat, 0.2. About, a second faster than Bucanos. Side by side, Langton goes. Langton's in the yellow car. You got Swebeg in the blue car. You know, Valenteus uses blue and yellow, but these guys are mixing it up together. And Sean, think smart, tried not to fight it around the outside, because they know the more they fight here, the more time they lose to Bucanos. They've still got a P2. They can still eye a P2 here.
But also, Hennig was the driver ahead coming through the final corner, and Sean Langdon was just too close when they went up Oruge and Radion, and he actually ended up side by side with Hennig over the course of the entire straightaway. That's not the best way to get the slingshot and stay attached to the drivers ahead. They're now 2 seconds behind Nick Bucanos, and Bucanos has now lost the draft to Valenteus. Valenteus 1.3 seconds ahead. Nick is now into the minor draft that stretches out to about 1.5 to 1.8 seconds, and Valenteus, with his fastest lap last lap, looks like he's in an opportunity to beat that now.
Yeah, just looking at that Torben Pollock moment, I did see that Austin Farr was right away on the radio saying, he took blame for that. Not a lot he could have done, not a lot you can do with this, because Cameron decided he wants to go on the attack. The overspeed is there. He'll have to do is around the outside of Lacombe. Remember, the outside becomes the inside. Side by side they go. Got to give the respect in. They're going to say it side by side through Lacombe, and now they're going to go side by side through Malmedy. And this is really good racing. Not a lot Mickey Friesen can do here. And in fact, Johan van Hicks has decided, let's go 2 by 2. It's Noah's Ark, but it's in Belgium. And they've got 2 by 2 down through the through Brussels, and they're still staying at 2x2 through No Name. Stop it, boy. Stop it. The leaders haven't gone 2x2. Mickey Friesen and Van Hicks have kept it 2x2. They can't go 2x2 through Wuhan. They can't. Everybody stays the same hot for one common denominator. Cameron leads.
Absolutely. Mickey Friesen doing a good job staying ahead of Van Hicks. Actually, sorry, yeah, Van Hicks doing a good job trying to put that up the inside through the downhill left-hander. I can report Sean Langdon and Henrik Schweibig once again battling on this Camel Straight, and unfortunately for both of them, still side by side they went, and so that meant that they lost even more time to the drivers up ahead. They're just not planning out the draft strategy very well in those GTPs, whereas these GTOs, they don't have to plan out the draft strategy. There's going to be drafting. You can battle at the front all you want. The drivers behind will still stay attached until the traffic comes through, and you might be able to break away. It's open season right now.
Key thing that we just saw is you saw Langdon, flash Henning. These GTOs can't flash each other. They ain't got no headlights. But I think you saw Langdon there doing a flash to Henning saying, listen, what are we doing? What are we doing here? I know you want to fight. I know you want a good battle here. But we work together. We can both be on the podium here. Just ignore Shady and Mad, who's right behind us. These guys, they don't know what's going to happen. Let's bring back the peloton here, Adam. That's what we're looking at. The top 9 all in this group. A group separated by 3.5 seconds. Doesn't sound like it's a group. Trust me, it is. They all bunch up together. And I'll tell you what, I don't think we're going to see an overtake once they get to the top of this hill. But you can see Cameron is blocking off any chance of an overtake.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're really hoping that this peloton doesn't befall the same fate as the peloton in the recent endurance bike race that we've had going on. As these GTOs, as well as they battle together and clean, as we've been saying, there's not that much wind out there. It's only 7 miles an hour, so they shouldn't be affected by that in the same way. Look at Valenteus putting in yet another fastest lap. The community was joking about how if Valenteus does the last to first challenge, how you're leading the race and you just keep hearing P11 has the fastest lap, P9 has the fastest lap, P6, and you know that it's Valenteus every time.
Well, he actually did the last to first on Wednesday. On one of the Wednesday time slots, he did last to first. And, he did it. He absolutely succeeded in what he did, and he just completely just dominated, and you saw that.
Oh, Sean Langdon's around.
Sean Langdon's had a moment. He's in the barrier. Now, that's a weird one. He lost it on the grass at Malmedy.
Took a little bit. Oh my goodness, what a rejoin there that was. Sean Langdon causing Max Wheeler heartache right there as he was trying to rejoin. And Max Wheeler was coming out of the corner, so a little bit of an unsafe rejoin there. Max Wheeler having to take avoiding action.
And you know what? That is a clear-cut mistake, and I've done that. Here we go. He tracked out way too much up to Malmedy, tries to use the curb, so he clips the grass. And that's what's happened there for him. It's so unfortunate, and it just happened. Everybody gets that one mistake there. As you just start to see these guys, they're starting to all just bunch up a little bit. You make one mistake there at Malmedy, trying to track out too wide and clip the grass to open up the corner. You never make it again. And I can tell you, Sean will not do that again.
And Valenteus has now caught the back of the GTO field. We're riding on board with him in our picture-in-picture as he's cutting through Carlos Fonseca. As we take a look once again, it's going to be another draft battle up the hill for these GTOs. Andreas Schuster putting some pressure on Jack Wells right there. Those two are under risk of losing some time as Shady Ahmad now goes around in the GTPs. So all of the drivers who are battling with Henrik Schweibig to try and hang on to that third position in that podium, they've all spun out at this point. And here we go side by side for the lead once again. Lundberg and Kaminen at the front. And it's 2x2. Noah's Ark again.
Yeah, back to the late breakers was Lundberg, but he can't hold it. And you know what? He can't even hold that inside. They can't go side by side through Malmedy. You're going to have to wait. All the gravel getting picked up here. A really good over-under, though, as they hit it to Brussels there for Lundberg. And there's not a lot that Kaminen can do. A little bit of a camber on this corner, but he's able to hold on to this P2. He's able to hold on side by side. They go side by side through No Name, through Jackie Hicks, through Speaker's Corner. Call it what you want. The key thing here is, Adam, they're side by side. And I'll tell you what, they're about to go side by side through Wuhan.
They're looking at it, but it looks like Nick McConos is going to back off just a little bit, or rather, Noah Lundberg backs off just a little bit and lets Cameron go through. It's so dangerous to go side by side through Poulan, and I've tried to do it in the GTO. You always end up out there in the on the outside of the corner. It's so dirty there. Look at it still side by side here between Jack Wells and Schuster as they're banging wheel arches right now as they go through the corners.
Yeah, Schuster gets that position. Not entirely sure if it's the right thing to make an overtake there because they've lost a little bit of time. Should be able to catch up, though, using the draft. Very interesting, but Wells goes down into sixth. And Schuster goes up there, and we've had some moments there. Is that Valenteus? No, it's Sean Langton caught in a crash.
He actually saved it. Sean Langton saved that. That was multiple cuts at the wheel as we have another rejoining Audi who comes up ahead of the field and wrecks them, unfortunately. But we're still looking at this battle in the lead. Fortunately, none of them involved in an accident as Cameron and Lundberg, very defensive lines as they come in. Henry Morse has made it past Ilka Kodosalo on the braking. And look at this, it's 10 cars deep for this lead pack, and Valenteus is right behind them.
Yeah, Valenteus is going to take his time as well. He's got 3.5 seconds. He'll be totally fine with that 3.5 seconds. There he is. And I do wonder what he's going to look at here. Let's count the cars he can get through here before he goes up the hill. In the real world, they were overtaking right before the GT started turning in here, but he will not get by anybody. Excuse me, he will not get past anybody. Got to lift a little bit. He's not going to try and go the flat out. Is that a slowdown for you, Mr. Valenteus? It's not. How is it not? I do not know. That is a man with so much confidence. I wouldn't have even done that.
It is. I believe it is a slowdown, but he's just gonna give it all up in this section right here because he has to wait behind all of these GTOs. So he knew that he was gonna essentially serve that slowdown naturally as we see Gabri Martinez putting some pressure on Henrik Schweibig as Henrik just seems to be unable to avoid battles today. Look at that, Gabri Martinez sneaking by into the top podium, into the lowest podium position.
Yeah, Henning tried to do a pick move on him. Tried to put a pick there, but there was a little bit of space there, and Gabri was able to make the move. But then you've got to feel Gabri could have left a little bit more space on that Lecom, but we know how tough it is. You've got to compromise your exit of Lecom to make that move. And Van Hicks, he continues to battle side by side with Friesen. Not where they wanted to be. Schuster's watching behind. They've had Valenteus go by into Lafanya. They go. Friesen gives it up. Smart.
Yes.
Smart again. This is why I think this is the race that Friesen may be working out to be good here. We're on board now with Shady and Mad. This is the moment we were waiting for. Everywhere we're looking right now, Adam, there is something going on. This top 10 could be split up very shortly.
Absolutely, and the focus, if you're a GTO, needs to be to give up as little time to the GTP as possible and make sure you're still in the draft. Look at this, Brendan Lim getting held up by the GTOs now with Matthew Cockrum and Shady Ahmad. Matthew Cockrum started this lap in 8th position. He's looking at 5th if he is able to get past Brendan Lim, but he's got Shady Ahmad on his outside, but all of them having to drift around the outside of Doug Cloud. A little bit of contact there that takes the front end off of Shady Ahmad's vehicle. Oh my goodness, that was major contact. Doug Cloud going deep into the corner. Jack Wells getting passed by Henry Morse in the GTOs while we're watching this battle as well as the GTPs trying to find their way through. I don't know what they were thinking, trying to go around the outside of Doug Cloud.
The outside of Blanchimont, nevertheless. I'm not entirely sure what was going on. Shady and Mad, but still keep this battle going. He's almost, I think he's just come in contact. He's had to take a black, he's got a black flag. Shady and Mad's got a black flag. Now, is that due to not serving a slowdown? I do wonder. That's not. He had towed the car as well. Not entirely sure what has happened there for him. We're on board with Matthew Cockham as he's tried to battle on. He's had a slowdown. Ahead of him, Brendan Lim. He's had a slowdown. You know it's Brendan Lim? It's a purple TVR car, and both cars have to take a slowdown here. Pretty sure they'll be safe. Brendan, that's a late move. Almost takes the nose and takes the rear out of Cameron.
Absolutely, yeah. So Brendan Lim, oh my gosh, now he takes the inside and he absolutely clips the dirt there, making Cameron, forcing Cameron to have to go wide. And here comes Matthew Cockrum late on the brakes. He's going to take away the apex for Noah Lundberg. Boys, it's not that important yet. We're still got 23 minutes to go.
No, you're right, and I've been thinking this. This is not important. We know that this is the one of the only times they come through the traffic. 2 times they'll come through the traffic for sure, the full traffic. So Saints drivers being a little bit hesitant here. Look at the timing tower, folks. Look at that timing tower. Valenteus, he is aggressive, but he is safe and aggressive, and everyone knows what he's going to do. He's 10 seconds ahead of everybody, Adam. And I think that just goes to show sometimes patience is a virtue, and you've just got to be calm.
Ove Trangarade trying to hang on to 13th position with Austin Farr, who's already had a little bit of an issue with Thorben Pollock earlier, trying to hold on, trying to make that pass on Trangarade. Good work from Trangarade to gain that position up to 13th, or rather retain that position from Austin Farr. And they've got Daniel Gallus behind them. Let's take a look at what happened here with Carlos Fonseca. Oh.
I don't need to really add any words to that, because you don't do a late switchback like that, unfortunately, and that's unfortunate for Carlos Fonseca to get caught out in that move. He's trying to leave the space. He's put his car in a position, and then the rejoin, I do have to say, I don't understand. Yeah.
That was
not good racing by everyone there.
That was a rejoin all the way across the track. Oh, no! Daniel Saleo, rather, coming out of the final corner, was in a battle with Max Wheeler and ends up spinning it. He's going to rejoin and rejoin safely this time around. Look at this. Leaders in the GTOs still nose to tail, and they've got about half the GTP field to come through still.
Oh, yeah, they've realized there's 22 GTPs in this race. I know there are 4 cars that have already retired, so that's 18, and they've only seen 7 of them. So they know that they've got a lot of work to do as they go up this hill one more time. Yes, this is an incline going up the Kemmel Straight. That's why the car at the front always struggles. And look at Johan van Hicks round the outside of Noah Lundberg. He's going to take the inside. They're going to go side by side. Johanny Kahneman is saying, thank you very much. I'm just going to keep on by. And around the outside of Malmedy goes Johan van Hicks. And that is a reason why he is up there as the leader of the championship. That's a lot of respect there.
Absolutely. Van Hicks making it up to that second position. Noah Lundberg in third now with heavy pressure for Mickey Friesen. Friesen sliding it through No Name. And now they've got Sean Langdon trying to go by, and Langdon's going to, yeah, that was a good move from Lundberg. Oh, Langdon absolutely hanging it out on the rear end through Pouon. He's going to be able to sneak by. He sneaks by Van Hicks, and he's going to take the outside route around Kaminen. That is the correct way to make a pass on the GTOs to that sector. The GTOs literally, we say it every week, but they really can't deviate from their lines on when it comes to the corners. They have to stay on the preferred racing line, and that's why you see this GTP of Max Wheeler just staying in line with Mickey Friesen until he makes the pass.
Yeah, good heads up there from Wheeler. In fact, Lesniak as well, as he's right behind. And in fact, now you see another GTP trying to go by. This is dangerous, and I do like that we've got Friesen camera there for a moment, because it'd be interesting if it was VR. You'd be seeing everyone panic for a moment. Got to keep our eyes on these leaders. Look at this. There's 4 GTPs trying to get past 2 little GTOs, and there could be some battling here. Cameron get pushed a little bit wide. This is interesting. Brendan Schaffel is in a battle with Lesniak here for 20th. So that just goes to show how crazy it is. Mickey Friesen still in his battle. He's going to go side by side. That looks like it's Jack Wells going to make the overtake here. He does. Ian Haycox is in the pit. Must have some damage there as well.
Yes.
These two can't go side by side, though. Mickey Friesen, I said it was his track here. He's down 6-6 now.
Yeah, and that's because I believe he had a slowdown that he had to serve. So he served that on what is the modern front straight. As you can see, Henry Morse taking the shortcut through Radion. And look at this, Mickey Friesen right on behind Jack Wells. They've got Daniel Cielo, Andre Felipe Diaz sneaking by, as well as Guillermo Garcia in the GTPs. This is going to hold up Jack Wells a little bit, but Craig, they're a second and a half behind Lundberg in the lead pack. And Kaminen has lost the lead. Kaminen's back down to third now.
Cameron lost the lead. I tell you what, he went side by side with Schuster. That bunched up these GTPs. Let's just have one massive traffic jam right now. They can't help it. They've got to do their own racing. And some of these GTPs are going to try and go around the outside. And around the outside of No Name, it's oh so tough. And now they go through Pouhon. This is dangerous for these cars because the GTOs are trying to keep it safe. And you saw the issue because Mickey Friesen tried to keep it safe. He got overtaken from Jack Wells. They lost the pack. They caught up to part of the pack. But this is not what we were expecting here. I was expecting these GTOs to stay tight-knit together. Stop it, Valenteus. They tried to keep together. But at the same time, look how much they spread out now. They're still in a pack. But the pack's just 6 cars now. And it's a very long 6 cars.
Absolutely, yeah. The pack is now 6 cars. They're stretched out, all within about 3 seconds. Look at Henry Morse. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, Henry? Drifting his way up Eau Rouge and over the crest of Radillon in the off-track area. What a save that was. Just put foot to the floor, doing 140 miles an hour sideways like that.
Tell you who's going to be trying to do 140. He'll be trying to break late for this. And Cameron's gone around the outside to take in the inside. They're side by side. And Noel Lundberg almost made it 3 wide, but nothing yet. And they keep battling. Look at the gap. Van Hicks is starting to pull away. Who is the better driver in a race like this? It's Noel Lundberg. Where's Noel Lundberg? Oh no, he's in 4th position. Not where he wants to be. In fact, this is not where any of these GTO drivers want to be right now. They want to be fighting. Surely, at some point, you've got to realize we've gone through all the GTPs. Maybe we've got to consider looking at working here, because Van Hicks is just on his own right now.
It's time for the bump draft, I think. If I'm Cameron, I'm going to try and give the bump draft to Schuster. No, he's going to look to the inside instead. Who's going to give up this time here? It's going to be Cameron who's going to think better of it, but look at that. Schuster takes the inside a little bit too much. It forces Cameron to go through the cut through, and now they're 2 seconds behind Van Hicks. Van Hicks is running away with this one.
Yeah, you know what? Cameron was going for the bump drop. That's what he was looking for. He was looking for the bump drop, and that's what caught Cameron out there, because he was making no indication he was going for that overtake, and Schuster presumed Cameron was being on the aggressive there. He was not. He was doing basically what you were saying. He wanted to play the bump draft game. He wanted to play it safe. Well, he tried to play it safe. No one else caught the message, and they were doing the tango while he was doing the paso doble.
It's too late now. It's 2.2 seconds. They've lost the draft. They're going to have to do some really creative and very, very coordinated working together to regain that time on Van Hicks. We know Van Hicks has a lot of raw pace, and the other driver who has a lot of raw pace is Noel Lundberg, who's currently in 3rd. So Schuster's going to have to realize that Lundberg's got a lot of raw pace around this track, and it's going to have to work together with Lundberg to try and gain that time back up to Van Hicks. But even just while I've been talking, they've lost another 2.5 seconds. Van Hicks might have this one in the bag if he's just able to hang on to it. These drivers back here have to work together to catch him now.
Yeah, but you know yourself, Adam. You know yourself. We can talk about these drivers having to work together. They're fighting for one person themselves.
Yeah.
They're not going to be looking at that. They're going to be trying to fight this. And I think at some point with, I can't believe I'm saying this, 14 and a half minutes left in the race. I just looked at the time. At some point, you have to realize there is a cork in the champagne bottle. And Noel Lundberg is a master at these tracks. Look how many times he's won a draft track, Adam. Le Mans was the first broadcast race he won. And show dominance. What has happened?
We've had a big wreck with Gabriel Martinez getting into the back of, I believe it was Henrik Schweibig. Yes. Gabriel Martinez gone to the back of Henrik Schweibig as they were trying to pass a slow GTO, and that has put Schweibig out of this race. Gabriel Martinez is going to retain 3rd, but that was a major moment. Here's the drafting that we were talking about, and Noel Lundberg is going to be able to get past Schuster. Look at Friesen. Friesen's not very happy about it either, but he has to fall in line with Schuster because they don't want to lose Lundberg now. They still need to be working together, but they still lost time on that straightaway, Craig. Still, they lost a 10th just in that little sequence.
Lost a 10th, but who was the fastest car at that group? This is the Henning Schweibig moment. We get there. Yeah, just loses a bit of time there. And he had to get on the brakes because he can't track out. And I got to feel that Gabriel has to read the situation a bit better there. You have to read the situation better there. I know it's tough to see that the other class is going slower, but you've got to give the space there. And I know you want to get on the throttle faster. Just unfortunate moment there for the drivers. That has caused the end of Schweibig. I don't know who. I think it was Christoph Lobisch in the GTOs that got caught out there as well. So that's going to be very interesting. This now is very interesting, because look at the gap Lundberg has started to push, and Mickey realizes it. Mickey now realizes that Schuster is that cork in the bottle, and I think you'll start to see, we don't see it a lot because there's a gigantic microphone in front of his face. I love making fun of you, Mickey. There's a microphone in his face. We can't see what he's saying. I think his eyes is going to show frustration for it in a moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's going to show frustration. 0.8 seconds now is the gap. And Schuster also knows that he's the cork in the bottle, so he has to defend this position with everything he's got, because he's only going to be hemorrhaging more and more positions with Kaminen tucked in behind. Look at that defense there from Schuster up the inside. I can report Kaminen just gone to the back of Bill Nizamas, trying to do the braking for that corner as well. And there's Valenteus cutting through the field with 13 seconds gap back to Nick Bakanos. But Friesen is going to have an opportunity to get by Schuster, but he's got to set it up right. If I'm Friesen, I would back off just a little bit around this corner and then try and power through. But now that they've caught back up just a little bit to Lundberg, Schuster's also going to have a draft. So Friesen's going to have a hard time getting his way by.
But who's behind them? It's a GTP, and I've got to give you a shout out here, Bill. You know you're not in any fight. You've not gone for anything crazy. This could be the decisive factor here. If I'm Friesen, I'm using that GTP as a little bit of a slipstream. In fact, where is Schuster going? No slipstream for Schuster. He's going to try and defend this inside. That's very risky. Friesen with the overspeed. Late brakes. He gets the position done. He had to slide because they're still tight. Around the outside of Malmedy, I don't think he's going to do it. Mickey Friesen around the outside of Malmedy. This is crucial for P3 in the race. You can't do it around the outside of Brissell. Not with the camber. They bump and grind. They bump and slide even. And he cannot make it. That is very questionable, and that's a sign that Schuster is not working together. He cares about one driver, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
He can't keep up with Lundberg up ahead, so he knows he has to defend this position. This is his best opportunity for a podium, is to keep Friesen and Kaminen behind him. I absolutely would do the same thing in his shoes if I knew that I didn't have the pace to stay with the drivers ahead. But look at this Friesen trying everything. He thought about a late lunge there. I saw him think about it, but he decided better of it. This is Victor Apollo, who's in the GTP, who's going to try and find his way by 16th place at the GTPs. I can also report that we had a wreck with Henry Morse spun out in the GTOs and then crossed the track and ran into Philip Lake. Both of them have towed.
Here comes Valenteus, and he sees this as well, and he's getting there a bit too late. Now, where's Schuster? Schuster with a quick blink there for a moment. He's back. No need to worry. This could be interesting, because if Valenteus got here later, one of these drivers would get a tow. The wrong driver would get a tow. No! Oh, my word! Just in the background, Mickey Friesen almost got run into the back of Victor Apollo there. That could have been oh so tight and oh so unfortunate. Keeps it together. Apollo losing control of the car a little bit. This is a little bit dicey, and now he bumps into Friesen. And that's not what anybody wants to see. Is there damage on the front of Friesen? There is substantial damage to the front of that 11 car, and that is not how Mickey wanted that race to end.
And now Kaminen and Friesen with major front end damage and 1.4 seconds. To Andreas Schuster up ahead. That's pretty much all she wrote, unless Schuster's pace really is not up to the pace of these two behind. But these two behind with major front end damage, they're going to be heavily affected by the lack of that draft.
Yeah, Kaminen is just going to have to use this. If you've ever done an Indy 500, a Daytona 500, sorry, and you know you've got damage, you try and work together with a car that doesn't have damage. They both have damage. Not a lot you can do right now. In fact, they're now in a battle to hold on to these positions. Jack Wells is catching right up to them. He could get a surprise 4th place here. So that'll be one to keep up there. And like I said, Schuster, we know we talked about the draft trains. We both said it. We're looking at Josh Brain now in this battle as well. Yeah, once you realize you cannot keep up, you race for yourself. He did the right thing there. But you've got to feel that Friesen, that was his opportunity to make that overtake.
So Victor Apollo with that contact with Mickey Friesen. Well, okay, that was another moment with Victor Apollo, actually, with Henry Morse. And here's Henry crossing the line. And Philip Lake, he already committed to going around on the racing line there and just had nowhere to go. Major contact, but Victor Apollo with that contact right there with Henry Morse and then with Mickey Friesen has been disqualified from this race. Josh Brain here in a battle with Austin Farr and with Alfonso Fernandez tucked in behind him. Honestly, Craig, these drivers are getting a lot more incident points than I expected. It's hard to get incident points around here, and folks are figuring out how.
It's hard to get incident points around the rescan of Spa. If this was the old Spa from a couple of years ago, yeah, I'd say you'd be looking at someone getting a DQ because people used to really struggle. But now the track limits are defined, the track runoffs are defined, the curbs are defined. It's 4-tire rule. So it's pretty much easier to see that nowadays. As Austin Farr trying to defend off Josh Brain, and that will help him a little bit there. with that GTO. In fact, braking a bit harder than Josh was expecting. Bumped everybody up, and once again, stop it, Valenteus. That's all I'm going to say about the GTPs. He's going too fast. Brain trying to hold on. He's got Fernandez right behind. Dechari from nowhere, just trying to make a late lunge. I do know that Emilio, I'll tell you what, if there's any driver that I have loved seeing racing this season, it's Emilio Dechari, because he might not be the fastest driver. He is not afraid to show some fantastic racecraft in that GTO.
Emilio has gone from just trying to find lap time towards the back of the field to now being part of these great battles throughout the series and throughout the race. And it's awesome to see that progression over time. This GTU driver doing a great job of finding his way forward with pace. It takes time in these cars. It can take a year or two to really find decent pace to be in the mid-pack. And here we go, Josh Brain still trying to recover, making that move on Austin Farr.
Yeah, making that move. They're going to try and go side by side. And Austin Farr, again, another driver we don't see in the series making his first appearance, I think. That's really good. With 6 minutes to go around the outside of Malmedy on a driver like Josh Brain. Josh Brain is almost now in that veteran status in the sim, it's safe to say. So fantastic driving there to go around the outside of him. Fernandez right behind as well in that Golf-inspired livery. And Dechari's still there. So you've got this little battle. And I tell you what, you've still got these groups racing like we expected, Adam, after all the drivers have done their one time around the field.
Absolutely. We've just seen a couple of other sketchy moments. GTP Matthew Cockram sent it very deep on Yanni Komanen coming down the right-hander at the top of the hill. So he's now got some left side damage to deal with, does Cockram. Kamanen, we never hear him on the radio, but he came on the radio quite frustrated at that move as we continue to watch this tight battle between these GTOs with the GTP traffic right in the midst of them.
Yeah, and Sean Langdon almost getting to the side of Austin Farr, just trying to get that move. And just, it's so tough on that part of Stavlo. You want to get going and you can't get going. And even in modern day sports cars, you still have that moment. So really tough to make those moves there. And now that actually held him up. And Josh looking for a move, can't get it. What about behind them? Is Alfonso going to look for a move? No, Emilio! Emilio's gone for a strike! That's not what he was looking for! It's a quadruple kill if you include himself! Not what Dechari was looking for.
Absolutely. Oh no, and Fernandez's car wasn't going straight, and he now takes out Brandon Shafroth as well. And they're both trying to recover. They better not back up onto the racing line, boys. Alfonso's going to get the car going once again, but the steering rack absolutely destroyed on that machine. And Braden Shafroth also going to get going. Here is that moment. He sent it deep. He sent it so deep, did Emilio, and absolutely got into the back of Alfonso, and that sent a strike into the other two drivers. Fortunately, Josh Brain doesn't look like he has that much damage, but he's getting past by Emilio Dechari, and he's down on power.
Now, I wanted to look again to see, was that Emilio trying to make an overtake there? No, the car was never looking to go, and for all our praises to Dechari, that's a very unfortunate looking mistake there for him. So unfortunate. I'll tell you, man, who is really doing well with what he's been given. Tell you what, they have damage. They're catching up to Andreas Schuster. Let's just wind this back a moment, Adam. With 3 minutes and change left, the two cars with damage to the front of their nose is catching up to Andreas Schuster in P3. Lesniak in front of him has just had a spin. We're watching Jamie Hamill-Smith having a little battle. Remember, he did not have the best of starts. He did not set a very good qualifying lap. He's battling Franco Scori for 14th position. But yeah, we've got to get back to that at the end of the race because you've got the two cars with damage catching up to Andreas Schuster.
Stop it, Valentinus. But yes, they absolutely are catching up to Andreas Schuster. They're only a second behind now, which means they're in the core draft at this point. So I know that's not really going to affect them as much as it normally would given their front end damage, but the closer they get, the less affected by that damage they're going to be. As we continue to see Mickey Friesen and Kamanen side by side, Friesen wants to stay ahead, and he's going to retain that position. These guys need to be careful, though. They've now lost 2 seconds on Schuster just because of that. Friesen. Yeah, Friesen is now 2 seconds behind Schuster.
Yeah, he's got to be careful what he's doing here, and also important to make sure. But at the same time, they're going to go around twice, Adam. They got 2 more laps to go because I'm looking where Valenteus is. He's just hitting campus right now, and he's going to be taking the white flag in a moment. But this is going to be a vital 2 laps here. What can Costasalo, what can Jack Wells do behind these guys? They see wounded warriors up ahead, and they're going to be looking to take an opportunity to get up there. As I always used to say, what's the most important stat in iRacing? The top 5 is the first stat they track.
Max Wheeler trying to go for a move on Jose Lamas, and he did that on the grass up the inside. Lamas is going to try and hang on to this one around the outside, but Wheeler just far enough ahead to take that position away. They've got Ove Trangrade to navigate here. That's going to hold them up just a little bit, and they're going to be able to navigate that fairly cleanly. Looks like Lamas thinking better of trying to make any sort of late moves here.
Don't think you want to be looking for late moves this late in the game. You want to be keeping it safe and keeping it clean, because you want to make sure you get those points at the end of the day like these guys are. As Cameron, he would love a P5 in the points. He would love a P4 in the points, though, because look at the battles he's been happening in the championship. It is white flag. Valenteus has taken the white flag, so it's all too close. But look at these two. Friesen is 4th in the championship. Cameron is 6th in the championship. This would be great for Cameron to get these points. But to get there, he's going to get past Friesen and Costasalo, who is in 7th in the championship, 2 points behind Cameron. He also wants those points.
Absolutely, and he's going to be hoping that they make some sort of late moves here. Remember, this is not the final lap. They've got 1 more lap to go for these drivers, as Valenteus is currently coming through, just came through Pouan. So he's not going to pass these drivers. And look at this, they've got GTPs absolutely splitting Costasalo behind, and Christoph Lesniak is going to go for a move up the inside of this battle.
Yeah, he's trying to do it as well, and late braking as well from...
It's going to happen again.
It's going to happen again. Got to be careful. A spin has gone around, and it is another pileup, and it's Max Wheeler trying to catch that corner out there, and everybody bunched up, and you've got to say it. It happened. What more can you expect? It is so tight there. You've got to give the respect. And I think it was maybe just a little bit of everybody just not anticipating what everyone was doing.
So as those drivers go onto the white flag lap, Adrius Valenteus, 23 seconds ahead of Nick Makanos, is trying to put in the fastest lap yet again on the final lap of the race, and he's got plenty of room to do it. Lawrence Coleman should be a non-factor into the final corner for Valenteus as he comes out of the penultimate corner and heads into the final corner with the start finish straight on the classic layout. He's going to dive it down to the inside and power out of the corner. Is he going to get the fastest lap on the final lap? That's the suspense we have, because Valenteus, once again, undefeated in the IMSA Vintage Series as he crosses the line, undefeated in both GTPs and GTOs, as that was Jamie Hamill-Smith spinning out ahead of him as he enters his final lap of the race.
Yeah, Jamie Hamill-Smith had a moment there. He's battling as well. Nicholas Makanos will come across the line. 22.7 seconds was the gap on my time in tower. Makanos will come across the line. That's a big gap there. Big dominance from Valenteus today. Gavin Martinez will take that P3. And Brendan Lim, there's the purple TVR. He will come home in P4. Still got battles happening here. Johan van Hicks, he only has 2.4 seconds lead. He lost half a second to Lundberg last time out. We said that this could have been the battle. A lot of questions afterwards for the race of, I know we want to fight for each other. Sometimes you've got to just take one for the team and work together. Van Hicks saw an opportunity and he took the opportunity. But it's oh so tight there, and it's oh so tight for Doug Cloud battling Costasalo, who's been trying to recover after that moment, trying to hold on as much as he can. Can he get any positions here? Costasalo is down now in 8th position. It is battle of attrition for him right now as Max Wheeler's right behind. He'll come by on the straight. Cloud will come by at the front of the field. It is going to be Lundberg with 1 corner to go. He takes that GTO victory. What a Van Hicks, sorry. Lundberg's in P2. Van Hicks takes the victory. I apologize for that. He takes it here from 4th to 1st. Lundberg will get that P2, and then it'll be Schuster in 3rd. What about this battle between Friesen and Cameron? It will come down, and Friesen holds on to that P4.
And Jack Wells gets P6 up ahead of Cameron, and then Jack Wells apparently had a penalty that he had to serve. I'm very confused as, wow, we've had a couple of drivers very, very eager to get out of the car there. But you could see just how much room Doug was giving to the rest of the field as, through the last couple of corners there. Just not trusting anybody as we see Martin Krejcik coming across the line in 12th. But man, it was a race that started off calm and collected and ended in chaos, Craig.
It was a race. We'll leave it as that as we're watching the drivers come around and do the finish. I think the last driver to come across the line is the car in P16 in the class, which is it's Duncan Marias, who's coming to the pits. So I think that's all she wrote for the field. But yeah, it was a race today. And it went as we expected in the GTOs. In the GTPs, I think we expected it was going to be a Valenteas show out there today. Not as much as we saw at 23.3 seconds. The gap between Mecanos and Valenteas. And Mecanos had a clean race. Let's just leave it like that. He had a very clean race.
Absolutely. The community has a lot to talk about tonight. But we're going to talk about the results here for this race with Andres Valenteas taking the win 23 seconds over Nick Mecanos. Nick Mecanos coming home Gabriel Martinez coming home in the third position after making some good passes on track and able to maintain some consistency. Brendan Lim came home in fourth with Matthew Cockrum in fifth position. Jesus Sanchez Morales comes home in the fifth spot, and Sean Langdon manages to recover up to seventh after an early incident that dragged him back to the back of the field. Jose Lamas comes home in eighth position with Daniel Cielo coming home in ninth, and Guillermo Garcia rounding out your top 10. Our biggest mover on the day was Lance Simon, up 11 positions from 22nd up to 11th spot, with Max Wheeler coming home in 12th, Andre Felipe Diaz in 13th, and Bill Nizamas coming home in 14th position. Bill Kraus comes home in 15th position. Those two started on the back row of the grid, both finishing line astern 14th and 15th as well. Daniel Gallus comes home in 16th spot, with Christoph Lesniak, the first driver to have some major problems, in 17th position. Braden Schaffroth was able to recover after being in the pits to 18th spot, with Hennig Freibig and Victor Apollo out of the race. Victor got
think we lost Alan there. We saw Shady Ahmad and Gail Gonzalez finish off the rounds for the GTPs. So it'll lead me to the GTOs, with Johan Van Hicks winning over Noah Lundberg in what was an interesting race there. And then Andreas Schuster will take third, with Mickey Friesen recovering to fourth, recovering after all that damage there, held off of Johanny Cameron, who finished in fifth as well, also had damage. And then Jack Wells will be sixth, with Doug Cloud in seventh. Ika Costa Sala will take eighth. Ove Trengare goes up 14 positions to ninth. Austin Farr will be 10th. Follow that up for the next page. It will be Emilio Dicciari, an interesting finish for him, unfortunately, into 11th. Martin Krejcik will be 12th, with Josh Brain in 13th. Franco Scurry will take 14th. Jamie Hamill-Smith will be 15th. And Alfonso Fernandez, 16th. Now we're going to the drivers a lap down. Of course, Duncan Morales will be 17th. Up 9, though. Paul Clavier will be 18th. And Carlos Fonseca will take 19th, with Fabian Satelli 20th. And then just one more page. Luca Massoni will be the last man, one lap down in 21st. Crystal Lobish will be 22nd, and Ian Haycox 23rd. And then those with damage or retired at the end. Henry Morse was 6 laps behind the leader in 24th. 6 laps for Philip Blake in 25th. 13 laps for Roman Bello. I know it says that it's the length to the lead GTP, not the GTO leader. 13 for Roman Bello in 26th. 15 for Lawrence Coleman, and 17 laps down for Foreman Pollock.
Well, Craig, that was a very interesting race that we had out there today. Lots of good battling out there, and lots of drivers who seem to struggle to figure out where to put the car, especially when dealing with the multi-class, both in the Audis and in the Nissans. Just a lot of challenges out there for these drivers at a track that we visit quite often. I'm a little surprised.
I think, again, like I said at the start, it kind of goes shit true. You think this track, because of the speed, because of the gaps, because of how wide the track is, you think it's a track that is pretty straightforward for multi-class. It proved today it wasn't, and there were drivers taking a lot of a lot of risks and a lot of late braking. And I went to look at the track temperature. One thing we never addressed, a 40 Celsius track temp. So what? 105 Fahrenheit, I think we're looking at there, 110, roughly around that. It's a very hot track. That can make your braking zones a bit longer. And I think that's what caught out some drivers. We saw Dechari make a mistake. That was a lot of late braking. We saw some of the GTPs make some late braking on GTO. You could factor some of that into that hot temperatures. And I'll tell you what, it gets hot. It gets hotter next week because it's Phillip Island next week.
Absolutely. Not only is it Phillip Island, but it's also a 60-minute race at Phillip Island next week. So that one is, on the 24th of May at 1 p.m. Eastern time, as usual. Definitely don't want to miss that one, as Phillip Island tends to create similar comings together between the multi-class and the drivers. It's a real challenge for the drivers out there. They have to put on their best at a very, very challenging race for sure. But that is going to close us out for today. I want to give a big thank you to IMSA Vintage for bringing us back for this season, and thank you to the team today, Craig, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media website and merchandise store, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next up on GSRC is the Skip Barber Race Series as well. That's tomorrow at 5 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's going to be at Summit Point Raceway. And don't miss the other upcoming races that are shown here on your screen as well. We hope you've enjoyed joining us today as much as we've enjoyed bringing this racing to you, and we hope to see you back again soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.